Seahawks fans, wherever you may be. Thanks for listening to the show. Join your hosts, Bill Alvstad and Keith Myers, as we talk Seahawks football. Hey, hi, Seahawk fans. Welcome to another episode of the Seahawks Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Bill Alvstad, sitting down with co-host Keith Myers, here to talk Seahawks football, reviewing Game 6, the 49ers at Seahawks. Unfortunately, the 49ers took it to the Seahawks, and it shouldn't have really even been close. We did end up crawling back at one point, and thought maybe this could be it, because they struggled putting away teams, towards the end of games the last few weeks, and I thought they had a shot, but it's just too much to overcome all the mistakes, yep. and we're here to talk about it. And I think we're going to share kind of our overall feeling of where the team's at and where we think it still might be going, just so that we can include an increment of optimism into this show. Welcome in, Keith. How you doing?
Yeah, it's going to be hard to be optimistic if we're just talking about that game.
I made like 15 sheets of notes, like literally, and they're all negative. Like there's nothing positive at all. And I was like, yeah, do I really want to talk about, an hour into a show about all the things, and probably will end up being that way, but
no, I don't want to talk that long about the negatives.
I don't either.
But it was hard to watch. The defense again struggled to stop the run. And I get that the 49ers run game is hard to stop no matter who's running the ball. But they give up a lot of yards on the ground. They give up
Half their yards came on 2 plays.
Yeah. The pass to Debo and the Garindo run. Those 2 long touchdowns, that hurt. But even with, you take those away, it was still a pretty good offensive performance by San Francisco. And Seattle really couldn't do much to stop them and slow them down. And that was just really disappointing. Like I said, the 49ers run scheme with all the outside zone stuff they do, it's hard. It's hard to defend. But this was supposed to be a team that could stop the run. This was supposed to be a team that was good on defense. And for 3 straight weeks, they have not been good on defense. After 3 straight weeks of being really good on defense. So we don't even know who this team is, although it's hard to imagine them fixing this suddenly. There's just
stranger things have happened.
True, but there's also there's not like, oh well, they're going to get this guy back and that's going to make all the difference, because there's this guy to come back. Byron Murphy will, but he isn't the linchpin that's causing this whole thing to fall apart.
Well, he could be. We'll find out. I hope he is, because if he comes back and he fixes stuff, it's like, okay, here we go. To be honest and forthright, even though I predicted 12 wins in this season, that was with an optimistic twist, and everything that really needed to go right should go right, and will have had to have gone right in order for that to happen. And you were more realistic at 10 wins, and I battled back and forth as to whether or not to create some sort of schedule that worked into that direction or not, and I just kind of left it. And I'm okay with that still. I don't think that we're going to get there, but there were 2 big question marks in the offseason that the team had that we both questioned whether they were adequately answered. Those questions were, what about the offensive line? Mm-hmm. And what about stopping the run? So even though we end up getting some defensive players, when you really take a look at it, it really wasn't, geared towards stopping the run. We got Hankins in, and he was really the big feature guy in there, and everyone else was kind of guys like Boye Mafe and Derek Hall and Uchenna Nwasu and Leonard Williams were all decent at stopping the run, and it should work. Byron Murphy was an unknown at the time, but it looks like he's going to be good at it too. So you've got a bunch of guys in theory that could be good at stopping the run, yet it's not happening. What's going on?
Well, what I'm saying is, when you say stopping the run, it was for me, it was the offensive line was one, and number two was middle linebacker. And middle linebacker continues to be the problem. And when you see when you see them get gashed up the middle, yeah, some of it is linemen getting pushed and that kind of stuff. But a lot of it, that scheme, when it comes to San Francisco's running game, middle linebackers have to come up and make plays. And we were watching Terrell Dodson just run to the wrong hole and not be able to make a play because he's not in the right spot. Like, you've got to read and go, and he's missing his reads right now. I get he's good in coverage, and that's why
I saw Jerome Baker out of position several times as well. So it wasn't just Dodson.
It wasn't Dodson.
And Jenkins as well.
Yeah, Dodson's was the easy one to see because there were a couple that were really blatant. But yeah, I mean, it's those, and Jenkins too, the strong safety.
And Julian Love had one of the biggest whiffs on a play I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So you had that in there.
So those three guys, those three additions to the defense, right? The two middle linebackers and the strong safety, they're the guys that need to come up and make those tackles. And
so
right now they're not doing
in the offseason, it was billed as, hey, they're more athletic, younger, more athletic, able to move to the ball, sideline to sideline speed, better in coverage. That hasn't really completely proven out either, because when you can't stop the run, you can't really rush the passer, and you give an advantage to opposing quarterbacks, and they've been able to successfully place the ball wherever they want against our defense as well. So, I think I'm not going to give the defensive line a complete pass here. You kind of pivoted to the second level, and the Seahawks have failed to own the line of scrimmage on either side of the ball.
Yeah. And
we started out the season leading the NFL after 3 games in pressure rate. Now, we were top 10 in sacks, but that was really the secondary. The pressure rate was really something to get excited about. Since then, we're in like the 20th percentile of the league on pass rush win rate. And they've failed to get a sack in this game. They've failed to knock down Jared Goff, right? Maybe twice, but they were incidental sacks. They just haven't been getting any consistent pressure on the quarterback at all. And when you don't have that, especially against a guy like Brock Purdy, a guy like Jared Goff, even a guy like Daniel Jones, these guys are pros, man. They're going to take advantage of that and really make you pay, and did.
Yeah, a lot of dump offs, a lot of short passes over the middle,
no turnovers.
And it was just methodical. It just all 3 games, it's been the defense can't get off the field. They're on the field forever. A lot of time of possession loss, and because they're not getting pressure, they're not forcing the opposing quarterback to get the ball out of their hands, and so they're able to wait for the safeties to get pulled deep and the corners to get pulled wide, and it just slowly the zones open up and get bigger and bigger until the quarterback can dump the ball off, and it's just happening too much, too often. The Boye Mafe through 3 games had 4.5 sacks and looked like a world beater. Through 6 games, he has 4.5 sacks.
Well, he just came back, so I'm going to give him a little bit of a break. But
you know what I'm saying, that like this has been the problem. Like the pass rush, whether it be the outside guys or the help in the middle or whatever, they're just not getting there anymore. What happened? Why were they getting there so readily?
Well, Derek Hall, was nursing a little bit of something, and then they decided to only play Boye Mafe 25% of the snaps in this last game. Now, Leonard Williams looked good, but he was the only guy. Dre Jones had no impact. Mike Morris played a few snaps, nothing. Cameron Young played only 3 or 4 snaps. They were talked about working him into the rotation and did not. Byron Murphy's not in there yet. Hankins is not going to get close to having any penetration at all. Jaron Reed's been playing okay.
Uchenna also didn't play. After coming back for week 5, he didn't play in week 6.
Well, he's on IR now.
Is he?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that he'd gone on IR.
Yeah, they put him on IR at the end of the week. So, listen, the reason I'm talking about the defense a little bit is if I had to weigh, like, what's going on with this team and what I'm most disappointed in, it weighs into the side of the defense. And I think I'm like 75% defense, 25% offense as reasons why we're losing. Now, the offense gets all the headlines. You got Geno Smith. He had a couple turnovers. You're not running the ball effectively like you should. DK Metcalf's got, a few issues here and there. And your offensive line is somewhat inept in like 3 out of the 5 spots and close to 4 out of 5. And so you can pin a lot on the offense, but it's the defense that is causing us to lose games.
Yeah.
And so, and in the end, at the end of this conversation, I want to lead, for me, I think I will be leading us on a path or myself that gets to a point where I'm still optimistic this thing can get fixed and get turned around. Get everyone healthy, not including Nwasu. Looks like he might be a little bit of time, but he could return this year for sure still.
So,
but I think that it's possible.
Looking overall, I would agree that the defense is very worrisome. But in this game against the 49ers, I am not going to agree with that. In this particular game, the offense was the problem. I mean, Geno had 2 terrible interceptions.
It's true.
That ruined drives. I mean, it was like they were heading in to score, and he threw just really boneheaded passes.
Yeah, and one of them, he had Nick Bosa right in his face with a hand, and he couldn't step into the throw. And so I knew that one sailed on him and whatever. Or maybe it was the other one where DK kind of went up and didn't really try or didn't continue his route or whatever.
No, the guy just cut right in front of DK because DK was going down towards the ground DK, to try and pick it up because
here's what happened on that. I saw the replay, all 22. DK ran a route that was intended to be a crosser, and DK faded on that route and drifted away from Geno towards the back of the defense. Geno was anticipating him continuing that route as a crosser, and Geno threw into that thinking that DK would be right there, and he should have been. And he wasn't, and it was an easy interception. It looked awful. It looked like it was all Geno Smith. It was all DK Metcalf on that play. And they came out and said so, Keith.
If he had run the crosser on that ball would have been 2 yards behind.
I agree that there was some...
And would have been picked off anyway.
I don't know if it would have been picked off because at least it would have been contested. But...
It would have been that far behind him?
It was DK's fault. He didn't run the correct route. I'm just going to say it.
He didn't run the route right, but
you can't put that on Geno.
The pass was still awful. If DK doesn't drift that back, and continues on the crosser, that ball is way behind him.
I disagree in a sense because if you bring DK like 7 yards closer to Geno when that ball gets into that space, it's kind of a jump ball situation for DK, and so I'm thinking it's a little better of a look than I think you think it is. Especially if you really go back and you look at the tape top down, you can kind of see where they're at when that ball's released and where Geno or DK continued to just drift away from the defender. The defender came up easy. It looks easy but when you watch it, it looks like the timing would have been such that it would have been a jump ball for DK.
I don't know. The other one was he just flat missed him and
sailed on him.
Geno just missed guys that were wide open. Like you had
Lockett. I totally agree with that. He had a horrible first half for sure. 9 yards downfield with no one on him, and he threw the ball 6 feet over his head. Like, how do you? I mean, I don't know. He played really poorly. Agreed.
And I think that.
But I don't think that he was the reason that we lost.
See,
anytime you have 3 turnovers to 0, you're -3 on the turnover ratio in a game. It's really hard to beat a team. But we were there.
But they turned the ball over 3 times. Failed to get points. They couldn't.
We gave up 13 points on turnovers directly attributed to turnovers. and should have had more because of the missed call that they had on the punt.
On the punt. Yeah, because that would have given San Francisco the ball down in the red zone again.
Exactly.
And so I look at I know
so I agree with you on principle that Gino had a bad game.
He did.
Awful, really. But yet led the team back on a couple of drives. And, I'm not going to make excuses for Gino entirely, but I'm just going to say I don't think they lost the game because of the way that Gino played.
No, they
by
lost the game.
himself.
They lost the game because of the way the offense played. The defense, they gave up a bad play on to Debo on that one pass, and they completely should not have given up that run to Garendo. But other than that, they did okay in this game. They were able to get off the field. They made some plays. They did some things. They got off the field enough and got the ball back to Gino that they would have been able to go down and score and take the lead, but instead
and overcome all the mistakes. Yeah.
Yeah. Instead, he threw another pick. The defense did enough. The offense didn't.
Correct. I agree with you. Overall, this game, the offense, I think you can hang the loss on this, but I think during the season, I think the defense is more the culprit. I think that, everyone calling for Gino's head and Sam Howell needs to play and Coach Mike McDonald is the big mistake and where's Pete Carroll and all of it. It's just,
that's nonsense.
It's a lot. It is nonsense. And I'll tell you why. I mean, Nick Bosa is a generational player. Nick Bosa had 14 pressures across 49 dropbacks against the Seahawks. That's tied for the most pressures by a pass rusher in a game in the last 4 seasons. Now, bless Stone Forsythe's heart. He didn't allow a sack. But that pressure against Gino really was disruptive. That team against Seattle's running game was legit. They took away the run. They made Gino throw over 50 times in this game again.
So wait,
for like the third straight game.
Here's the thing. No. Did they take away the run or did Seattle take away its own run?
Well, they couldn't.
Because Seattle stopped trying to run the ball in the first half.
When you're down by 20,
it wasn't when they were down by 20. They actually, when they came back and were down by 20 and got it to within 6, it was when they were running the ball. Before that, they didn't run it. After that, they didn't run it. But when they were down 20, suddenly they start running the ball and suddenly the offense starts working. Grubb's game planning these last 3 games has been questionable at best.
I totally agree with that.
That has been.
I wanted to talk to you about the coaching.
A consistent issue. Why is Geno Smith throwing the ball 52 times in a game?
30 for 52 for 312 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks.
I mean, it's under 60% completion percentage. That's not helping.
And here's the deal, too. Beyond Geno, you've got 5 offensive penalties, including a flag for Walker on an illegal shift that negated a 52-yard touchdown to Metcalf. That's a big play. That's a big thing. That was such a ticky-tack. I couldn't even believe that. Anyway, he did it, but normal play, refs are going to not look at that. And Metcalf didn't get his foot down on a would-be touchdown late in the first half. A couple other passes, hit him. Should have maybe caught one of those.
Yeah, he dropped.
Laviska Shenault had a fumbled kick return that led to points. There was, 49ers average. Go ahead.
Shenault also had
that was great redemption.
90-some yard kick return for a touchdown. So
yeah, 97 yards.
Yeah,
so that's great. Yes, that was great.
He gave up one, but he got it back.
I like that. So the defense gave up 7.9 yards per play. A lot of those came on a couple 3 chunk plays. They had a 72-yard or 78-yard touchdown to Deebo Samuel. They had the run at the end of the game there to put it away, which was absurd. And then another, big chunk run.
before we move on from that Garendo play, give props to Spoon because he ran that play down from behind 65 yards downfield and made that tackle.
I think Garendo was going down anyway.
The next play, they punched it in with Juszczyk, but Spoon,
Yes.
that was a hustle play. That was an effort play. He got all the way down there and made that stop. And that's I don't know. I haven't had a chance. Effort.
I do too. I haven't had a chance to look at the replay on that to pin fault on whoever. If I had to guess, it was one of Jenkins, Dodson, or Baker. But
on that play, I think it was more than one of those two, because you see Dodson run up into the wrong hole, and you see Baker come up with a terrible angle, so that he can't even get there because Garendo just runs around him because he took such a bad angle to the play. And so there were two problems, at least on that play, that caused that. But like I said, Spoon ran it down. I was impressed with the effort to get 60 some yards downfield and make that tackle.
So in the last 6-game history against the 49ers have rushed for, since September of 2022, 189 yards, 170 yards, 181 yards, 169 yards, 173 yards, and 228 yards against the Seahawks defense. Now, those have all been Pete Carroll until this year.
Mm-hmm.
Mike McDonald was hopefully going to fix that. I think it's going to take longer than a year to fix that, apparently. And then the Seahawks, conversely, in those same games had 36 yards, 70 yards, 104 yards, 88 yards, 70 yards, and 52 yards. No wonder we lost those games.
Yeah. Well, and the other part of that is the defense this year is not as good as it was in the past years. So that 52 yards is damning because it's like the second least out of all of them, and it came against the worst version of the 49ers defense.
So the 49ers had 3 explosive runs tonight from their running backs. Seattle has 5 explosive runs from their running backs over 6 straight losses to the 49ers.
Yeah.
Stone Forsythe has 35 pressures allowed over 6 games. No other player has allowed more than 19. So virtually double any other player in the league.
True. Part of that
pressures allowed
is between Bosa and Thibodeau.
It doesn't matter who you're going to face. You got to.
I know he has had to go up against.
There's a pass rusher on every team in the NFL that he's going to have to go up against.
There is a pass rusher on every team in the NFL, and how many of them were better than Nick Bosa? 2.
Well, Stone Forsythe's made him look better, or as good.
I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying, like yes, he's given up a lot, and I'm not saying he's played well because he has.
He's ranked 55th out of 55 tackles in pass block efficiency.
He's also had the hardest difficulty of any of those tackles because he's gone up against some elite players coming off that edge against Seattle.
So combined, Forsythe and Cross have combined 54 pressures in 6 games. They have one lineman that's top 30 in their respective position groups in pass block efficiency rate. Cross sits at 30. Bradford and Tomlinson and Forsythe all rank 47th or worse. Connor Williams is top 30. So what about the coaching, Keith? Is it the players? Is it the fact that we inherited a roster and they had an effect on the roster this year, but you can only do so much in free agency and in the draft? Is it the play, the confusing game plans, the bad execution, the poor body language, the poor tackling? They said they were going to be a physical team. They're not. They don't force turnovers.
What happened to the team in week 1 against Denver that missed one tackle in the entire game and just put on a clinic of what tackling is supposed to look
I
like.
should go back and watch that film. Actually, that would be good for them,
because that was a game. Like that was impressive how well they tackled in that game. And then you get against like the Giants in that game, and they couldn't tackle anyone. It was like broken tackle. It's like, come on, just get the guy to the ground. It was that was frustrating. And I'm just, where did that go? Like, where did it go?
I think it's a lack of mental toughness. And I don't know if you can coach that into a team. I think it's inherent in certain players, and you've got to figure out how to get that out of your team. You really do. You just have to figure out how that's going to happen, because we've got the team that we've got through the rest of the year. What I was going to say before, okay, I'm just going to, do you have anything more negative that you want to talk about? Because I'm just going to like set that aside.
I think we should set that aside. I'm getting tired of, it's the same stuff. Like the roster is what it is. I think you can get more out of the offensive roster, even with the offensive line being bad. But they need to scheme it better. They need to have a better plan, run the ball more. I think the defense has gotten away from its identity a little bit. And they need to focus on the line of scrimmage and being physical and doing the things they did the first couple of weeks.
Well, I've got good news for you.
Yeah.
George Fant's probably going to come back this week.
That's a good sign.
I've got better news for you. Byron Murphy probably comes back this week.
That's also a good sign, because he does not get pushed around.
And so for me right there are two guys that can help us tip the scales in our favor a little bit at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. We've been losing at the line of scrimmage. We've been getting pushed around. We haven't been able to dictate terms, running the ball, pass rush, blocking. And then on the defensive side, it's been Hankins and then some other players that just really kind of pretend they're nose tackles, scheme wise, to help Hankins out in there. Jerron Reed's been doing the best he can, but he's undersized and he's getting a little older, lost a step. Trey Jones is the most overpaid player on this roster right now, I think.
Yeah.
And Leonard Williams is again, one guy.
Yeah.
So to have Byron Murphy back, I think is a huge thing. I'm honestly thinking that Byron Murphy could be a much bigger player to this team than we give him credit for. Because as soon as he went out, this team started playing like crap on the defensive line, allowing all these big, huge rushing games, not getting any pass rush. When you've got a guy like Byron Murphy, who teams have to pay attention to, then that opens up some pass rushing lanes for your other players. And so I think that having him in there is a big deal, and we'll see what happens. But
yeah, I mean, they need him. They need something to come up the middle, both penetration to disrupt the running game, and but also to get up, move quarterbacks off their spots, not let them step up into the pocket to avoid Mafe and company coming around the edge. Like, yeah,
and
they could use that.
I want to see also from the coaching staff. Hopefully, they'll figure it out this week when they've got 10 games or 10 days. Between games, but I want to know what they're seeing in Tyrell Dodson and Jerome Baker that they're not seeing in Tyrese Knight. And here's a player that hasn't played for 2 straight games. I was mistaken last game, Keith. I said that he was out. He had some personal issue. He was off the roster for the day or whatever. He was actually benched and did not play a game healthy scratch. And then same with this game, did not see any snaps in this game.
Well, he was active. He played special teams, but he did not play on defense.
Yeah, I'm not even seeing the special team snaps, but yeah. Okay.
What is, yeah, I agree with you. Like what did he do wrong? Because
all I saw him do was make plays and make a few tackles anyway behind the line of scrimmage and just kind of being around the ball all the time.
Yeah, I mean, he made a couple of coverage mistakes, and okay, he's a rookie, he's going to do that, but it's not like Baker hasn't made coverage mistakes, right? I don't see.
Yeah, big mistakes.
I don't see where the Tyrese Knight hate is coming from the coaches. I haven't seen something so bad that it would be like, wow, they need to get him out of there. I have seen that from the two guys that are playing the last couple of games, where they need to be in there as much.
Now, Kayvon Wallace did play 27 snaps in this game.
Yep.
Which is a pretty decent upgrade for him. And that came at the expense of Kobe Bryant, who they've listed at cornerback, but was also just kind of playing a hybrid role for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure, without looking at the All-22, how that went for the team, but in that particular spot, but we'll see going forward. And then Artie Burns signed with the team, and actually played 14 snaps, which I think is a good move. I thought Artie Burns played well in coverage in this game and tackling. He's one of the most sure tacklers on the back end there.
I mean, Nehemiah Pritchett ended up with 20 snaps in this game because Trey Brown got hurt. He was playing opposite
Trey Brown's
Spoon.
Not been playing well either.
Yeah. So he hasn't, and so he got hurt, and so then they went to Pritchett. But that, I mean, they reached a point where the cornerback depth was Spoon, Pritchett, and Artie Burns, who had just been signed off the street. Like they were hurting, and then so then Kobe Bryant actually got in and got a few snaps in the middle there. But I think that's why you saw more of Kayvon Wallace, is the depth at corner is being tested. They went to some big nickel kind of situations with Wallace in there and let him, be the slot guy. And
I actually don't mind that.
I don't mind that either.
I don't mind that. You know what I'd like to see? I'd like to see Devon Witherspoon play on the outside for the majority of snaps and see if that makes any difference to this defense as far as the physicality, as far as just being kind of the enforcer on the back end. This team needs a little bit of an attitude adjustment, to me. And a guy like Jenkins is not really doing it for me. He played at 65 snaps, 100% of the snaps. And I think Jenkins he's just not playing well yet in this scheme. And I'm not sure if it's because he's nursing something or if he's not understanding the communication.
He's played 100% of the snaps this season. He's got 100% in all 6 games.
What do you think of the play that you're seeing on the field from him?
I think his play early on was pretty good. But I've seen a drop. I've seen him,
everyone's,
taking some bad angles. We've already brought that up. I've seen him miss some coverage assignments, and they need to get him back to where he was playing the first couple of weeks too. Julian Love, actually, he's had a couple of really bad plays that I think, the highlights has people think, that's what people are seeing, but he's quietly played pretty well. But him and Spoon are the two players on the back end that have played well. Jenkins hasn't. Reek Woolen has been up and down. Trey Brown has been a major disappointment this season.
Yes.
Right? It's they need
Nehemiah Pritchett
more out of those guys.
Wasn't really ready to play yet in the NFL.
No.
And he's just been kind of forced in there. And then Williams, of course, isn't meant to be playing at all on defense, even though he's listed as a corner.
Yeah. But he's not.
Yeah. I think there's some optimism for me here, because I think you're going to get Byron Murphy back. You're going to get Tariq Woolen back. I think they can really take this time to really kind of iron out some communication issues on the defense and be ready to play next week. And I think you're going to see a better defensive performance than we've been seeing. Now, last year, if you remember, and you do, Nuchen and Iwasi went out, and Seattle all of a sudden couldn't stop the run last year, when he was out. And he's out all this year, basically, and we're struggling a little bit against teams that are really good at running the ball. Now, the first 3 weeks, they did allow some rushing against them. Like New England was successful against us and so forth. But I'm a little optimistic that going forward, maybe they can get better. And then I want to see Cameron Young. Like, they talked about being excited about Cameron Young and having him in practice all off season, and now he's ready to go. They said he'd work him into the rotations. He had 2 snaps.
He had 2 snaps.
So I'd see that coming up a little bit.
True. Why did he have 2 snaps and not more? Because Jerron Reed played 82% of the snaps. Leonard Williams played 91% of the snaps. Those 2 guys got ran into the ground by
Hankins
overuse.
Hankins did get spelled, but
Hankins got 63% of the snaps, which is a little high for him too.
Yeah.
And Dre Jones played 68. Like, all those 4 guys were your entire rotation. And then
Jonathan Hankins, I'll give him credit. San Francisco was running the ball about 65% of the time too. So
yeah, but I'm just saying, like, you have 3 down linemen. Those 4 guys accounted for all the snaps. The only other player to get any was Cameron Young, who played 2.
Yeah. Mike Morris, I don't know where they had Mike Morris playing, but he played 9 snaps. So, okay.
Yeah, he's listed as a pass or an edge player on the thing that I'm looking at. So you're right. He played, but you know what I'm saying though. Morris getting 9 snaps and Young getting 2 snaps. That's 11 snaps worth of a rotation.
Yeah, that's 10, like 18%.
Yeah. You've got to have more depth than that. You've got to be able to do more to help those guys out. So if you want to look at why Leonard Williams was getting pushed around at times, well, look at his usage. 91% of the snaps. When defensive linemen are at their best, they're playing like 68, 70 maybe, right? You don't want guys playing 90% of the snaps.
So we've got the Falcons, the Bills, and the Rams coming up. Bills and Rams are back-to-back at home after we're on the road next week against the Falcons. Falcons have been playing okay. They've been having some pretty decent play, quarterback play. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, a fairly average team. It's a winnable game if the first 3 weeks Seattle Seahawks show up.
But the first 3 weeks Seattle Seahawks show up, they can beat anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, depending on the level of competition against them. Now, the Giants, we should have won that game.
Yeah.
I mean, that should have been a game we should have won. Now, I can see them dropping to the Lions. We drop to the 49ers. Both of us kind of predicted those things. So that's why I'm not absurdly negative right now. There are some folks online that are just unreal.
Well,
like even people that have been called for Coach Carroll to be dismissed and said we need to be patient with Mike McDonald and a new team, and are calling for Mike McDonald to be, where's Pete Carroll? I made a mistake. It's like, come on,
right?
Dudes,
come on,
right? Come on. So
that's nonsense.
The deal is really we've lost in a bad way, and we've lost by a lot of mistakes, and some of those mistakes have come from our best players. Gino with the picks, DK with the drops and the lack of execution,
and the fumbles.
Tyler Lockett with an untimely penalty, Ken Walker with an untimely penalty, Labosco Chenault with a fumble that led directly to points. The list is pretty large of some of our biggest playmakers that have been ones that have been making the mistakes on this team so far, especially on the offensive side.
Yeah.
I need those to be corrected. Those are unacceptable, and they need to turn that around. And then conversely, we're -10 on the turnover ratio. We're never going to win. Never going to be over 500 with a situation like that. We need to figure that out. Now, turnovers are kind of, you got to be a little lucky, but also it's about a mindset and about a physicality on your team that you have to have in order to even get the ball in play, to get it to jump out of somebody's hands, to get it to be in a position to get an interception.
You said that the Seahawks were minus 10. They're minus 6. And point out, which is the second worst in the league behind the Raiders.
And we haven't had a turnover in 5 games.
Yeah.
We got those turnovers in the first game, and that was it.
Yeah, they've had 4 takeaways. And I think 3 of those were a rookie quarterback making his first start.
So, and that's one of those things that the coach highlighted, in camp that they wanted to be able to do, is be that team that was looking for turnovers and getting them. And the physicality thing, they came out. This isn't me saying they should be physical. The team came out and said, our identity is we want to be physical. And we want to be a physical team, both on offense and defense. And they have not been at all. Yeah. They have been finesse on defense, and they have been a passing team on offense with no physical blocking up front whatsoever. So it'd be nice to kind of see that in some form or shape. I'd love to see that. And maybe that's Byron Murphy coming back, and he's just like, I'm tired of sitting on the sidelines. I'm going to do something in this game. But we need players to like believe again. And I think you're seeing a little bit of that waning a little bit. So I think this little layoff here, mini bye, is good for the team. They had 11 games or 3 games in 11 days. That's a lot. That's a lot, especially when you're playing bad, Keith, and you don't have time to correct. You don't have time to practice, to work through things. You can talk about shit all you want in the film room. But this will be a nice week because they get out and practice. They get a couple days off, reset their minds, and come back in ready to work on Monday. And hopefully the coaches have been working overtime between now and then to be able to put into place a plan. And maybe it's a couple position changes as far as personnel goes.
Yeah.
Maybe a guy like Dodson shares time with Tyrese Knight or something. I don't know.
Or maybe it's getting Artie Burns back as the nickel.
Yeah. And Witherspoon can float around a little bit more
and do more things, because now that he doesn't have to be the slot corner.
A big thing too would be to get Noah Fant back. Big.
Yeah. Anything
get
they
Stone
can get
Forsythe out of there. Stone's just a turnstile. I'm sure he's a great person, but he's not equipped to handle the edge in the NFL. He just doesn't have the feet for it. And to have George Fant out there would be a big bonus. Still no timeline on Abraham Lucas. The coach was asked directly about that yesterday, and he gave no timeline.
That's
and Jason Peters is still sitting there. So
I mean, that is the thing.
Maybe they throw Jason Peters in there instead of Anthony Bradford and Christian Haynes. I don't know. I mean, you want your best 5 out there. So
yeah, I mean, it's one of those situations where, last year it took Peters 3 games from when he was signed to the practice squad to when he was ready to play. It's been 2. So
you think that if he really wants to play, he'd kind of come in a little bit better shape, but it is what it is.
I mean, I think it's one of those things where no team wants him, so he's ready to sit on the sidelines, and then somebody calls and says, "Hey, what do you think?" And he's like, "I guess." But
so for you, Keith, what is one thing that you think the team can work on and successfully overcome or make better that gives you a little bit of optimism?
They can freaking run the ball and stop throwing the ball 52 times a game like this game against the 49ers. That is just straight up a decision you can make, and it will instantly make this team better. Run the ball.
I thought running in the NFL didn't matter.
I've never said that.
I'm watching Ben Baldwin just, light up like a Christmas tree overall, the years and years of him saying that. So
yeah, that running backs don't matter. Running the game, you should never run the ball. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
No.
I agree. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that is definitely one thing that we can do. We've got two of the best running backs in the game, and we just need to have that commitment. And it looked like they were going to do that in this game, and they came out and ran the ball on first and second down to start the game. Problem with that is if the other team's ready for it, and 49ers are, because you announced it pretty clearly 2 weeks in a row.
The first two plays running the ball doesn't count as a commitment to the running game.
I know, but all of a sudden you're in third and long, and then you have Gino, throw over a receiver by 15 yards, and all of a sudden you're punting to start the game, and you're in. It's the way that the game starts to flow that way.
But we're going to run the ball, but do you come out and run it the first two plays against a stacked box with 9 in the box on one play and 8 in the box on the other? That's setting yourself up to not be successful. And then you go, well, see, it didn't work. Now we're just going to throw it again. And they drop Gino back, 52 times after that. Like, that's not how this works, right? That's not that's not committing to the run. That's being like, see, the run doesn't work. I want to throw the ball. We're just going to throw it. That was a self-defeating game plan. Come out, figure out what they're doing. If they're going to stack the box to stop the run, go play action. If they're going to drop off,
what is the deal with the play action and the lack thereof, Keith, with this team?
I don't know, because it's not like Gino's bad at it.
They're dead last in the NFL in play action.
Yeah, they are, and they're dead last in the NFL in running attempts. Ryan Grubb does not like running the ball. He doesn't like even faking that he's going to run the ball. He does not want there to be any running of the football. That is what the statistics show us through 6 games. Is that
so? Mike Macdonald's the head coach, and I think this is an opportunity for Mike Macdonald to have a meeting with Mr. Grubb and just say, "Listen, dude, we need to have more balance, and I want at least a 55-45 balance in this next game, no matter what."
I'd take 60-40.
Yeah.
If 40%,
well, it's been 65-30. It's been about 65-35. That's generous. And it could be even higher than that.
It was 83% in the Giants game passes.
It was.
So yeah, when this offense is working at its best, Ken Walker's been running well.
Are we a good run blocking team?
No, but we're not a good pass blocking team either. So who cares?
Well, I think that's part of the equation. If you're not good at both, what can at least give you a chance? What can give you more yards per play? And that's really what it is in the NFL. It's how many yards per play are we averaging? And,
but we've seen what happens when
you kill drives when the
scale tips too far. You have to be able to run the clock a little bit, keep your defense off the field, extend some drives, convert some third downs. You're making it too hard on yourself if you're trying to throw the ball in every play.
Yeah, no, I am in the complete
if you got
agreement
Stone
with
Forsythe over there against Nick Bosa, why are you making him pass block 52 times? Give the guy throw the guy a bone, right? I mean, come on. It's like you're trying to make it harder for him. Run the damn ball a few times and give him a break. I don't know. Got to run the football.
All right, let's get out of here. We'll come back next week and we'll talk about the Falcons game and what that means, where we're at, how we feel removed from this game a little bit longer, and and let's get this thing right, because we've got time. I mean, we're still tied for first place technically in the division, although the 49ers now have the one game against us, but we're still 3-3. 49ers are 3-3. You know, the Cardinals are 2-3, and so on and so forth. So the season is not over. Depending on who you're listening to on Twitter and other places, don't let people tell you that it's over. Mm-hmm. It's not over. And Mike McDonald needs an opportunity to guide this team and potentially guide his own fully made roster. So he's going to be not run out of town, hopefully, after this season, and he will be back to hopefully shape this thing in his, the way that he needs to have it in order to be successful. So I'm sure he's just as frustrated as you are at the disappointing results and play that he's seen. He's got a lot of pride, and he's going to try his best to make it right. So let's believe in him.
And he's definitely a talented enough coach to fix it. I believe that.
Yeah, I do too. And they've got Leslie Frazier there too, and I believe in him too. All right, let's get out of here. Find Keith on Twitter at Myers NFL. You can find me at NW Seahawk. The show is Seahawks Playbook Podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform and our YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button. Leave us a comment. We really like those, especially when they go against Keith. I love those. In fact, I take screenshots of them and send them to Keith, and it makes my day.
It's true.
All right. Until next time, guys, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Seahawks Playbook Podcast listeners, thanks for joining us for another edition of the show. You can find us on Twitter. Bill is at NW Seahawk, Keith is at Myers NFL, and the show is at Hawks Playbook. You can listen and subscribe to the show at SeahawksPlaybook.com.